Imagine lowering a camera into a mysterious hole so deep and silent that what it captured terrified everyone who saw it. This wasn't some internet rumor, it was the story of Mel's Hole, a place said to exist in Washington state, though the government denies it. Yet, people have gone missing trying to find it. From eerie late-night radio calls to expeditions that disappeared without a trace, Mel's Hole remains one of the strangest mysteries ever told, one that seems to stare right back at those who look for it. It all started in 1997 when a man named Mel Waters called a popular late-night radio show called Coast to Coast AM, known for exploring paranormal and unexplained topics. Mel's calm, serious voice immediately captured the attention of millions of listeners as he described something beyond belief, a hole on his property near Ellensburg, Washington, that seemed to have no end. Mel said he wasn't looking for fame or money. He wasn't writing a book or selling a story. He was just sharing what he had found. According to him, the hole didn't behave like anything natural. There was no echo, no sound at all when objects were thrown in. He said he had once tried measuring its depth by lowering fishing line down into it, spool after spool, mile after mile, and even after 15 miles of line, he never hit the bottom. There was no resistance, no splash, not even a hint of what might lie below. That alone was strange enough, but the more Mel described the hole, the weirder it became. Animals refused to go near it. Dogs barked and pulled away from it as if frightened by something unseen. Birds avoided flying over the area altogether. Mel said that the air felt thicker and heavier around the hole, as though it were somehow alive or breathing. Locals had been throwing trash, broken appliances, and even dead animals into it for years, but nothing ever made a sound when it fell. The hole swallowed everything silently, as if it erased whatever entered. Then came the stories from older residents and Native American communities in the region. Some local tribes had long known about the hole, calling it a cursed place and warning people to stay away. They didn't describe it as haunted by ghosts or creatures, but rather as something that didn't belong to our world. They believed the hole was not just in the earth, it was a gateway to somewhere else, a place humans were never meant to touch. Before the internet turned Mel's story into a worldwide mystery, people had already tried to study it. Locals dropped stones, lowered ropes, and even tried homemade measuring tools, but nothing ever reached a bottom. No one could explain how deep it was or how it could exist without collapsing. Those who came close said they felt uneasy, as though the ground itself was watching them. Years passed, and the radio call became one of those forgotten oddities. But in the age of the internet, the story resurfaced, and this time, it spread like wildfire. Someone posted supposed coordinates showing a strange patch of land near Manistash Ridge, and satellite images began circulating online. A message appeared on a conspiracy forum claiming, "We found it." Soon, TikTok users and Reddit investigators were obsessed, sharing videos of themselves exploring Washington's forests, convinced they were close to discovering Mel's Hole. But this time, the searchers came prepared. They brought cameras, drones, and sensors, determined to capture proof of the bottomless pit once and for all. A small expedition claimed to have found something, a dark, circular opening surrounded by unnatural stillness. They set up equipment, lowered a camera, and began recording. Then, before anything meaningful could be seen, the feed went black. Moments later, their live stream vanished. The account was deleted. That's when people began recalling Mel's warnings. In his original calls, he had said that strange people started showing up after he went public, unmarked vehicles parked near his property, and men watching from a distance. He claimed that not long after, government officials arrived in hazmat suits and blocked access to his land, saying there had been a nearby plane crash. But Mel never saw any wreckage, no rescue crews, no evidence at all, just strangers taking over his property and refusing to let him in. When he tried to question them, they told him it was for his safety. A few days later, he said he was offered a deal, leave the country and stay silent about the hole in exchange for $25,000 a year. If he refused, they warned, life would become very difficult for him. Shortly after that, Mel disappeared. He made one final radio call months later from an unknown location, sounding nervous and uncertain, saying he had been forced to leave the U.S. and couldn't return. After that, no one ever heard from him again. Scientists and geologists have always dismissed the story, saying it's impossible. They explain that a hole like Mel described cannot physically exist. As you dig deeper into the earth, the temperature and pressure increase dramatically. Rocks melt, metal tools fail, and everything becomes unstable. The deepest hole ever made by humans, the Kola super-deep borehole in Russia, reached only about 7.6 miles deep after 24 years of drilling. Beyond that, the heat became unbearable, turning the rock into a soft, shifting material that made further digging impossible. By comparison, Mel claimed his hole was over 15 miles deep, measured with nothing but fishing line and weights. Experts laughed at the idea. If such a void existed, they said, it would have caused massive earthquakes or surface collapses. The structure of the earth simply couldn't allow it. They concluded that Mel's hole was either a misunderstanding, an illusion, or a hoax. But if it was truly fake, people wondered, why did the government respond so quickly? Why did they seize the land, block entry, and silence the man who reported it? That question continues to fuel speculation. Some say the hole might not be natural, that it could be a leftover from a secret military experiment, a deep testing shaft, or even a portal-like phenomenon tied to strange magnetic fields. Others believe it's a myth that grew too big to control, fed by coincidence, curiosity, and fear of the unknown. Still, every few years, new sightings appear online, photos of circular holes, mysterious coordinates, and stories from hikers who claim to hear strange humming or feel disoriented near certain remote areas of Washington. None of them can prove it's Mel's hole, but the legend refuses to die. Whether it's an actual bottomless pit or a symbol of human obsession with the unknown, Mel's hole continues to fascinate. It's a story about what happens when curiosity meets something it can't explain, when science says no, but mystery says maybe. Even now, people scroll through maps and plan trips to the forests near Ellensburg, hoping to glimpse the impossible. And maybe that's the real power of Mel's hole. It reminds us how much we still don't understand about the world beneath our feet. Somewhere out there, hidden by trees and silence, there might be a place where sound doesn't return, where the air feels wrong, and where light disappears forever. A place that swallows everything, and keeps its secrets. The people watching Mel didn't go away. He said one of the officials even told him they had found an illegal laboratory on his property, something serious enough to send him to prison for life. Whether it was true or just a threat didn't matter. The message was clear: leave, or we'll make sure you regret staying. So Mel left. He took the offer and boarded a plane to Australia. There was no trial, no investigation, and no news coverage. He simply vanished from his own country. For years, no one saw or heard from him again. Then, in 2002, Mel returned. He called the same radio show, Coast to Coast AM, but this time his voice was different. He sounded weak and confused, speaking slowly, like someone trying to remember who he was. He said parts of his memory were missing, and he had strange scars on his body, evidence of medical procedures he didn't remember having. He described waking up in unfamiliar places, not knowing how he got there. It was as if someone had erased parts of his life and left him as a shell of his former self. Still, Mel insisted his story was real. Not only did he believe in the original hole in Washington, but he claimed there was another one, this time in the Nevada desert. According to him, it was even more mysterious and far more dangerous. It wasn't just about a bottomless pit anymore. This second hole seemed to contain something alive, something that didn't just defy science but threatened it. After Mel disappeared again, people assumed the legend would fade away. But the internet doesn't let mysteries die, it revives them. Years later, the story resurfaced, spreading faster and wider than ever. It wasn't radio shows anymore. Now, it was Reddit threads, TikTok videos, and YouTube documentaries. A whole new generation discovered the strange mystery of Mel's hole, something science had never explained and the government had never confirmed or denied. Someone uploaded Mel's old radio interviews, cutting them into eerie clips with titles like "The Deepest Hole on Earth the Government Doesn't Want You to Find." The clips gained millions of views, and soon online forums filled with theories, maps, and recreations of Mel's land. Reddit users started organizing posts like crime boards, connecting details from old broadcasts and eyewitness claims. On TikTok, teens narrated Mel's story over foggy forest footage, daring others to go out and find the hole for themselves. The obsession grew quickly. Then, in the middle of one obscure discussion, something new appeared. A user going by the name DepthWalker33 posted satellite coordinates and a photo. At first, it looked ordinary, just another patch of wilderness near Manistash Ridge in Washington. But when people zoomed in, they noticed something strange, a perfectly circular clearing in the middle of the dense forest. No trees, no shadows, no signs of paths or human activity. It was as if the earth itself had been erased in that one spot. Users cross-checked the location with property records and realized it matched the vague directions Mel had described years earlier. That discovery sent everyone into a frenzy. But just as the excitement peaked, the satellite images changed. The once clear section of land suddenly appeared blurred and distorted, the same way governments censor secret military sites on public maps. For many, that was all the proof they needed. Something was being hidden. Theories exploded across the internet. Some claimed it was a portal left behind by aliens. Others believed it was a testing site for experimental weapons that could manipulate gravity. A few thought it might be a geological formation, an ancient lava tube that extended deep into the Earth's mantle. Then came the wildest theories, that Mel's hole wasn't physical at all, but a tear in reality itself, a place where the laws of nature didn't apply. They said that objects made no sound when falling because they didn't fall at all, they slipped out of our dimension into another world. Maybe, they said, that was why the government moved so fast, not to stop people from finding a hole, but to stop them from finding what was beyond it. Years ago, these theories might have been dismissed as madness, but now, with social media feeding every strange idea, curiosity turned into obsession. People didn't just talk about Mel's hole, they began organizing expeditions. Groups of amateur researchers, engineers, and adventurers packed their drones, LiDAR scanners, and ground-penetrating radar equipment. They weren't chasing a ghost story, they were trying to collect scientific proof. The first reports were unsettling. One group said their GPS went haywire as they approached the coordinates, spinning them in circles. Another group claimed their drone lost signal and crashed the moment it crossed the edge of the clearing. Some explorers reported pressure in their chests, like the air itself was pressing down on them. A few described hearing faint static or whispers in their microphones, even though they had no radio equipment nearby. Then came the team that decided to go further than anyone before them. They didn't come as thrill seekers, they came with professional equipment, funding, and a plan. It was 2023, and their mission was simple, to lower a camera into the alleged hole and record everything. There were 5 of them in total, 2 producers, 2 drone operators, and 1 skeptic scientist who specialized in geology. They had all spent years investigating hidden or forbidden places, but none of them had seen anything like this before. They didn't stream their expedition live or post flashy teasers. They wanted hard evidence, not internet fame. They arrived at the site quietly, bringing steel cases filled with gear that looked more suited for a military lab than a forest hike. At the clearing's edge, they began assembling a custom-built drone rig designed to withstand extreme pressure and send back live footage through a reinforced signal link. Everything was going smoothly at first. The drone's lights cut through the fog, and the cameras were calibrated to record both visual and infrared data. They hovered over the center of the clearing, scanning for any sign of an opening. Then, as one operator moved closer, the video feed flickered. The audio picked up a sharp, metallic hum, like electricity arcing through the air. Within seconds, every device lost connection. The monitors went black. The signal returned for a split second, just long enough to show something that none of them could explain. The frame caught a flash of motion, a twisting shape deep in the dark, moving like smoke or water, but upward, against gravity. Then the video shut off completely. When the team tried to restart their equipment, nothing worked. Batteries drained instantly. Their backup generators failed to power on. The air grew heavier and colder, and some described a vibration under their feet, like a deep pulse from underground. Terrified, they packed up and left within minutes. They didn't release the footage publicly. Only fragments of their audio logs ever made it online, and even those were mysteriously taken down within days. The few viewers who managed to save the clips before deletion described hearing a low, rhythmic hum, something that didn't sound mechanical or natural, but alive. That's how the legend of Mel's Hole returned again, stronger than before. No one knows what those explorers found or why their data vanished. But if Mel's story taught us anything, it's that once you go looking for the hole, it starts looking back. The drone they built wasn't just an ordinary machine, it was designed for the impossible. It had a live data connection, a 4K low-light camera, and thermal and infrared sensors to detect anything in the dark. The wire it hung from was made of heavy-duty material that could resist heat, pressure, and interference. Every piece of equipment had been tested twice before the mission. They couldn't afford a single failure, not for something like this. By morning, everything was ready. Mist rolled over the forest floor as the drone's lights flickered on, cutting through the fog. Slowly, the winch began to lower it into the hole. First went the camera, then the thick cable, unspooling deeper into the darkness. The team crowded around the monitor, their breath visible in the cold air. The feed was crystal clear, no static, no distortion. As the drone descended, the walls came into view, smooth, dark stone that gleamed like glass. The silence was heavy. The sound feed picked up nothing, not the hum of wind, not the creak of rock, not even an echo. The walls looked unnatural, perfectly carved, as though something intelligent had shaped them. There were no signs of life, no insects, no roots, no marks of weather or erosion. Just flawless stone and endless black. Then, the temperature began to fall. Not gradually, but sharply. Warning lights flashed on the screen. The readings showed freezing conditions, temperatures far lower than what should have been possible underground. It was as cold as the polar ice caps, yet the cable showed no frost. The team stared in silence as the numbers continued to drop. At around 300 feet, the first strange thing happened. A soft light flickered below the drone, pale and rhythmic, like something breathing in the dark. It wasn't a reflection or glare, it pulsed slowly, as though alive. The drone's camera turned toward it, trying to find the source, but there was nothing there. The light seemed to come from deeper within the hole, just out of sight. It glowed again, brighter this time, and then vanished completely. At 400 feet, the glow returned, but now it shimmered across the wall like polished glass catching firelight. The colors on the video feed began to distort, the magnetic sensors detecting a faint wave, some kind of electrical disturbance. The compass spun erratically. The drone drifted slightly, though no wind or current existed to move it. It was as if space itself was stretching. The silence changed. It wasn't just the absence of sound anymore, it felt like something was listening. Watching. The tension in the air grew thicker as they descended further. Then, at 580 feet, the screen caught something. It wasn't a glitch or blur, it was a figure. A tall, thin shape standing between the camera and the stone wall. It didn't move or make a sound. It had no clear color or face, but it was there, unmistakably there, motionless and waiting. Then, the feed went black. No static, no warning, just instant darkness. The drone stopped transmitting. The sensors went dead. The equipment was lifeless, but the wire remained slack, still connected. Carefully, the team began to reel it back in. The winch spun quietly, the cable coiling up one turn at a time. But the drone never came back. No weight, no resistance, nothing. It was as if the hole had simply swallowed it whole. The team stood in silence, staring into the emptiness. They didn't speak on the way back. It wasn't fear of failure, it was the realization that they had witnessed something that shouldn't exist. Back at their base, they reviewed the footage frame by frame, enhancing every flicker and shadow. What they found defied explanation. The footage lasted just over 10 minutes before cutting out, but it was enough to shake everything they believed. The descent looked normal at first, smooth walls, steady lighting, clear visuals. But as the minutes passed, strange anomalies began to appear. The temperature readings dropped at impossible rates. Energy pockets floated in the air, glowing faintly in infrared. The bursts of light appeared again, flickering in rhythmic patterns that some thought resembled breathing, or a signal. Then came the sound. At around the 500-foot mark, a low hum crept into the audio feed. It started faintly, almost like static, then deepened into a vibration that seemed to come from the stone itself. It didn't sound mechanical or natural. It pulsed in intervals, then split into short, low bursts. When the audio was analyzed later, the sound patterns didn't match any known frequency or language. Some people claimed it resembled reversed human speech or sonar pings. And then, there was movement. Just before the blackout, a shadow slid between the camera and the wall. It was quick, barely noticeable unless you slowed it down. But when researchers analyzed it frame by frame, the shape became clear, tall, narrow, and human-like, but not solid. It looked like liquid shadow given form. It didn't walk or float, it simply appeared, like it had been waiting in the dark all along. Moments later, the screen froze completely. Then, the transmission ended. The first upload of the footage appeared on a small private website, posted by one of the team members. Within hours, it was copied, downloaded, and re-uploaded across social media, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, and Discord. The clip exploded in popularity, and that's when strange things began happening. Some users reported their accounts being banned immediately after posting the video. Others said their copies of the file became corrupted as soon as they tried to share it. A few claimed their entire storage drives wiped themselves overnight. One uploader said they received a takedown notice from an unnamed agency with no contact information, warning them not to repost the footage. But once something hits the internet, it never truly dies. The video kept reappearing under new names: The Breath Below, Eyes in the Pit, Mel's Descent. People watched it endlessly, analyzing every pixel, every flicker. Some swore they saw a second figure in the background, smaller and closer to the camera. Others focused on the final few frames before the blackout, claiming they could see two faint, reflective eyes staring directly at the drone. Experts in paranormal studies called the phenomenon the sentient void. Tech analysts called it a self-aware anomaly, something that reacts when observed. Conspiracy theorists said it was proof of a hidden network of underground facilities used to monitor humanity from below. Theories spread like wildfire. Some believed the drone had crossed into a non-physical space, a rift between dimensions. Others argued it was a government experiment gone wrong, a project that opened something they couldn't control. A few even suggested that Mel's hole wasn't a single location at all, but one of many connected entry points around the world, each leading into the same impossible depth. Whatever the truth was, the footage left behind one haunting certainty: the deeper they looked into Mel's hole, the more it seemed to look back. Some scientists began to share theories, though many refused to use their real names. One idea suggested that the hole might actually be a reversed fold in space, where the laws of physics turn inside out. Another theory said that the strange electromagnetic patterns could be the result of quantum echo chambers, where pieces of time and space loop endlessly within themselves. The strangest idea of all claimed that the drone never truly crashed. It didn't fall deeper but instead moved sideways, crossing into a completely different layer of space. According to this theory, what people thought was depth was really distance across another dimension. But the theory that convinced most people was simpler: the idea that it was never really a hole at all. It wasn't a pit that led downward into the earth. It was more like a sealed vault, something ancient that was built to keep something in, not out. The smooth walls, the sudden magnetic changes, the unnatural silence, it all made sense if this hole was actually a kind of lock. Whatever had moved inside it was never meant to be seen. As people watched and discussed the video, their curiosity only grew. The more they analyzed it, the more questions they had. No one could explain what caused the blinking light, why the magnetic field shifted, or why so many computers froze or crashed when the footage was uploaded. It was as if something didn't want that video to exist, as if the hole itself rejected being seen. When the video finally reached the public, everything changed. There wasn't a loud reaction, no headlines or protests, but there was a deep, eerie silence that spread through online communities. People debated endlessly, but then, without warning, the conversation stopped. Forums went quiet. Accounts vanished. The entire expedition team, the same people who had lowered the drone and recorded the strange blinking shadow, disappeared from the internet completely. Their social media accounts were locked or deleted, their emails stopped responding, and even their phone numbers went dead. One day, they were online, the next day, it was like they had never existed. The video itself began to vanish too. Websites that hosted it were suddenly taken down, often without explanation. Some mirror sites that tried to re-upload the clip found that their servers crashed or their data was wiped. Others received vague copyright notices, even though the footage had never been officially registered by anyone. Behind the scenes, rumors spread that certain people were contacted directly and warned to delete the video or face serious consequences. A few creators said that their entire channels disappeared overnight, without strikes or appeals. No one in authority acknowledged any of it. It was like the whole world quietly agreed not to talk about it. Soon after, the land itself was closed off. The area near Manistash Ridge in Washington, the rumored location of Mel's Hole, was fenced and blocked from public access. Satellite maps blurred it out again, just like they had before when coordinates were first shared online. Hikers who wandered too close reported seeing black SUVs parked at odd angles, trucks hidden among trees, and men with radios patrolling the area. None of them wore uniforms or badges. There were no park rangers, no government signs, just silence. Those who tried to ask questions were told to leave. No official news outlet covered the story. There were no press conferences, no follow-ups, nothing. Anyone who tried to dig deeper seemed to stop after one attempt. It was as if the world had silently decided that whatever existed down there didn't belong in newspapers or documentaries. It belonged underground, hidden forever. Then Mel Waters, the man who first spoke about the mysterious hole years ago, disappeared again. He had reappeared briefly in 2002, saying strange things about missing time, unexplained scars, and even a second hole in Nevada. Before he vanished for good, he hinted that there might be a third one, somewhere secret, possibly outside the United States. He claimed that these holes were connected somehow, part of something ancient and enormous, something that was never meant to be disturbed. But before he could explain further, he was gone. After that, Mel's name vanished from public records again. There were no passport traces, no tax documents, no property ownership under his name. His home stood empty, his trail completely erased. It wasn't clear if he left by choice or if someone made him disappear. All that was certain was that Mel, the video, and the land itself had been removed from existence, as if someone had reached out and deleted them. Maybe that was the point all along, not just to cover up a hole in the ground, but to hide what the hole represented. Because what the drone recorded was more than just strange lights or temperature drops. The footage suggested something else, something alive. The blinking lights seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. The faint hum sounded like whispering voices learning to speak. The dark shape in the feed didn't move closer or farther away, it just appeared, as if it had always been there, waiting to be noticed. Even now, theories continue to spread. Some believe the hole was part of a massive biological system buried deep beneath the earth, an ancient network designed to watch humanity and send information somewhere else. Others think it was a prison meant to contain something dangerous, not a passageway to explore. Still others claim it was one of many holes scattered across the globe, all connected by a pattern of energy lines invisible to the human eye. A few even suggest that the holes aren't entrances at all, but intelligent entities themselves, creatures that pretend to be voids, luring people to look inside before consuming them. Now, there's no remaining footage that stays online for more than a few hours before being removed, no active researchers or eyewitnesses, and no verified information about where the expedition team went. All that's left is one haunting question that appears again and again wherever this story is told: what if Mel's hole was never really a hole at all? What if it wasn't about how deep it went, but about what could come out of it? If you felt chills reading this, you're not alone. people around the world still whisper about what the team saw and what the camera captured before the signal went black. Some think it was a glimpse into another dimension. Others think it was something far worse, something alive that noticed us looking back. And maybe that's why every trace of it had to disappear. Because if the whole truly was aware, if it could see and remember, then maybe, just maybe, it's still watching from the dark, waiting for someone else to find it again.